experience maybe could have been a bit more cautious.
Here's Isack Hadjar, winner of the Formula 2 feature race here 1 year ago, on his way to the runner-up spot in the championship. He adores this racetrack and he is looking for a better ride from his racing bull around this circuit than he had earlier on. He was striking the curb in a way that made him pretty uncomfortable at Raidillon earlier, and he's going to go past the Williams of Alex Albon as he goes into Pouhon corner.
A flash through the first left. Here's the second left that's absolutely flat out and is just now part of the run up towards the Fagnes chicane, and you're up towards 200 miles per hour on that blast as well down the hill before you pitch it right and then left to squeeze out of the throttle and pick it back up for the short blast to Stavelot, where he picks up loads of understeer. I wasn't sure if we were going to be heading to the gravel there, and I think that was a bit of a gesticulation, was it, thinking there was dirty air from the Williams that he's just passed. Now it's a long run to the bus stop. Loads of time to think about your perfect braking point. Low fuel, first quali mode lap for Isack Hadjar. Is he going to get it right? You don't want to overcook it now because you want to do multiple laps on a set of tyres. Don't flat spot it lap one, and he doesn't. So this will be Hadjar to the line.
Goes over the line, sets the time of a 1:42.7. Everyone will respond to that. Starting with our most recent podium finisher. Over 1 lap pace, it's not been his season so far. He has gained 10 places or more in 4 Grand Prix so far this season. Hadjar, Bortoleto, Lawson and Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg in 4th position. Others still to come. Here's the man who crossed the line first here last year before being disqualified for being underweight, George Russell,
who sweeps past Max Verstappen in the background. So that was just minor work going on last minute for Verstappen. Nothing to worry about for the Dutchman, who's out on circuit, running towards the back, but still has plenty of time to get a lap on the board.
Whoa, someone's had a big moment at Stavelot, and telltale stuff in front. Was that the Mercedes?
I think it's Antonelli, isn't it, who's backed off it. Surely that was Antonelli dropping it properly wide there.
There is gravel here. There are moments. You see the underside of the floor going through Blanchimont. Huge commitment on the way through. Lewis Hamilton having a similar moment, left-hand side of his screen. Big moment of correction. Remember, they've only had 1 hour of practice to calibrate these cars with this racetrack. Hamilton losing time, Antonelli brushing the gravel. George Russell is fast as 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, barely quicker than Hadjar, though, and it's disconcerting for Russell to come through and see the gravel that's come through from the driver ahead. See Hamilton through the final couple of corners. Upgraded Ferrari. They had a new floor a couple of races ago. It's brought the car very much to life, and Hamilton's had better weekends in Austria and at Silverstone. But that was a suboptimal lap there for Lewis, with the new rear suspension now on top of that floor.
This is the moment that we saw the aftermath of. Kimi Antonelli heading to Stavelot.
Oh, it's so early on the throttle.
Oh, full spin.
Yeah, that's why it was quite as dusty as it was for Russell. A pirouette through the gravel. He's lucky to get away with that. That is a punishing corner. You've got gravel there, you've got the barriers not far away. And he was so early chasing that throttle. He was quick earlier on as well, Antonelli. Driving with a lot more confidence so far this weekend. I hope it's not going to take a backward step after that one.
Piastri goes ahead of Norris. He was 4 tenths ahead earlier on compared to this driver. He's 3 tenths ahead of Norris right now.
The time with that gravel.
Yeah, not the cleanest of laps for Russell then confirmed, and that's why he's only on Hadjar's pace. Piastri's still quicker in the middle sector. The middle sector, he's lightning fast. That's where he's got the bulk of his time over Norris. Let's see Verstappen come through and give us a middle sector in the Red Bull.
So Verstappen goes through what is basically, there's 2 track marks, aren't there, through the gravel. There's a lot of gravel on the circuit there. We saw it earlier on at Malmedy corner. We're seeing it at the second part of Stavelot. And here is the left-hander at Blanchimont. Easy, flat, memorable pass at this part of the circuit in his debut year in Formula 1 for Verstappen. That was when he was with Toro Rosso. He has been brilliant with Red Bull. 4 times a world champion, 3rd in the standings, coming across the line, and once again, like he did in practice, he splits the 2 McLarens.
There is setup convergence. I think the Red Bull have added downforce on Verstappen's car there, because the way that he was mighty in the first sector, and Tsunoda as well earlier on, they're not anymore, but they're not falling away as much in the middle sector either. So 2 tenths, it looks like it's shuffled Verstappen closer to the pace, but he seems to have lost his major top-end speed advantage over the McLarens.
Lance Stroll soaring away at the steering wheel, looking for grip that just wasn't there, but looking across the line at his time. He's gone sixth fastest at this circuit. Here's two-time world champion Fernando Alonso, who is looking for another strong result, puts it into fourth with the fastest final sector of anyone so far.
Before you know it, there's only 3 minutes left of this session. We're heading towards final lap territory already. Antonelli has no time on the board, having had the spin, still circulating, and he's just coming out of La Source again. So he's cruising. So Antonelli's going to go for a one-lap wonder in this sprint quali. And that's a lot of pressure on young shoulders for him to try and get out of this. But look at Hamilton, also down in 16th after his moment as well. So those that didn't get clean first laps are left a little bit in the lurch in this shorter session.
Going again, you're looking at Ollie Behrman. The Racing Bull and then the Sauber making their way out onto the circuit. So Behrman does not have a time on the board. Antonelli had the spin into the gravel. The two Alpines. Gasly ahead of Colapinto, and Hamilton, a five-time winner around this circuit, finds himself in the drop zone. All of them will feel that they can improve at the end, though. Hamilton especially will know that there is loads more time in that car with that brand new rear suspension, much talked about, tested at Mugello under a filming day, and this is the moment for Lewis Hamilton. It's at the defining corner so far. It's going to be snappy oversteer.
Well, it was much earlier than Antonelli's. Antonelli was on the gas at the point that Lewis was having that oversteer, and so Lewis managed to back out of it earlier on and at least not run through the gravel. So no gravel rash underneath the car, should still be okay, and he's still circulating, having not come through the pits. So the same as Antonelli there. But it has left him with a bit of pressure. So opposite ends of the experience scale, both in fast machinery, but both have to pull out one final lap. And you can see Hamilton now coming towards the Fagnes chicane, in position behind Gasly. Slipstreaming is a thing around here as well. You do gain a good chunk in that first sector, particularly if you can give yourself a distant toe. You'll then lose it in the middle, but overall, there is a sweet spot there. And
look at the gravel.
At that. Yeah.
It's like a dry line in the wet. There's so much gravel on the circuit.
They'll sweep that in between these sessions. But for now, you've got to find your way through it. To be fair, it's just driving on the line, so it's something that they're all very capable of doing, but it looks a mess.
You heard it when Lewis ran over it after that moment of correction in the first part of that section. So Gasly, one of his best drives of the season, and in recent times of Pierre Gasly. Over one lap, he's been superb, but point-scoring finishes have been hard to come by. Season's best last time out at Silverstone with P6, but he finds himself in the bottom five. This is the last chance for the drivers to make their way through. It's only 15 laps for the race that runs to around half an hour in time. So if you're going out at this stage, your chance of adding points to your championship total are very, very thin. Look at these corners. Majestic, Eau Rouge, into Raidillon, and then the Kemmel Straight. Hamilton attacking a few meters behind. They're both in the drop zone at the moment. They both need laps.
And Antonelli as well, who's on a lap up the road from these two. So Antonelli and Hamilton, the bigger names in the drop zone. Hamilton finding a little bit in the first sector, but is not that great. He's actually slower than Gasly in that part of the lap. But the middle sectors where a Ferrari should be able to make the difference. On board with Gasly, seeing him work the wheel down through Rivage.
So Pouhon corner is next. Fernando Alonso's gone for low downforce. He's just done the fastest first sector of anyone so far. Sweeping round. His teammate Franco Colapinto had a moment on the curb there earlier on. Gasly, experienced driver, one-time Grand Prix winner, looking for his personal best lap, looking for an improvement. Yuki Tsunoda has gone over the line. Someone's been wide on the exit of the Fagnes chicane.
Yeah, that's high speed as well. So it's all high-stakes driving of everyone on the limit with only 1 hour of practice. You can tell they're not fully comfortable with the cars at high speed and the changes of direction there. Hamilton's only just up on Albon as well through two sectors. It's not lightning.
There are personal bests being set, but it is not rapid. Hamilton was talking about the difficulty of getting new parts to work with just 1 hour of practice. He's a five-time winner around here, including last year. But he's under pressure, along with Pierre Gasly and Hamilton, facing the wrong direction at the chicane, under pressure to get through. He's in 17th. He will not complete the lap. And the man who knows success around here finds himself parked up. The checkered flag is out. Gasly did escape. And then it's Hulkenberg in 15th, Albon in the drop zone along with Hamilton, Colapinto, Antonelli, I think, might have had another moment as well. Here's Bearman, but there's yellow flags. Now it's clear. Hamilton is still parked up there, but the green flag is out according to our information. Bearman not on the board. Does that change now? He gets to 14th as the yellow flag is reapplied. Surely that was never withdrawn with Hamilton parked up in the runoff.
It looked like it was momentarily.
Albon goes across the line. He does not improve. Gasly is in 15th. Albon in 16th. Then it's Hulkenberg from the podium to the exit. You've got Lawson in 12th. Hamilton falls at the first hurdle along with Colapinto and Antonelli, who is 20th and last.
So has Hamilton lost drive? Has he got a car issue, which is why he's pulled off? Otherwise, why isn't he going again? And that yellow flag could clear. But instead, he's waited. We haven't seen what's happened. No, he's going again now. So by staying by the track there, stationary, the yellow flag stayed out for a long time. It's not going to help Lewis, really, because he's down in 18th and out.
But this is the moment. We caught the back end of it when he was in the runoff area. Lewis Hamilton was pushing to try and make it through. Round goes the car.
A really sudden rear lock. It sounded like he had drive as well as he picked it up. Wow, that was, you don't see too many dramatic rear locks like that a driver of the caliber of Lewis Hamilton can't save.
Very unusual, caught by surprise. The second most experienced driver on the grid, 7-time world champion. It is a new iteration of Ferrari this week. The 5 drivers we have lost then after that dramatic high-speed spin. Albon, Hulkenberg, Hamilton, Colapinto and Antonelli.
Yeah, sorry, no grip.
Yeah, copy, mate. We just need to check this car out to see what we've done to the floor.
Sorry.
Don't swear about it, mate.
Not the timing for Antonelli at the moment, but it is only the sprint. There is Grand Prix qualifying proper tomorrow, so he can use the sprint as a test session to get that confidence back. And yeah, probably there is some damage to the floor, having done a full 360 in the gravel, and he wasn't impeded by the yellow flags in Hamilton. So there were a couple of drivers that would have had the yellow. I think Bearman, it sort of randomly went green again for Bearman coming through, and then went yellow again after that.
So that's the drivers fighting over track position. Hulkenberg trying to set a time.
Not great, but messy.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
Fighting for track position when you're building up. Look at that, compromising the lap.
Yeah, not great. Normally you'd wait for Lawson to just go for it and then come through. It's Stroll that caught it at Fagnes then, so that's why that other bit of gravel came. Lance did a good job in that part of qualifying, was up in 7th. And managed to keep the wheel straight and get back on before the braking for Stavelot there. Yeah, Hulkenberg, normally you just wait for your turn because you know that the Racing Bulls car is going to turn into the right-hand side. And so just let him go and then you can go. I wonder if they were hard pushed to get round for the checkered flag there, and that's why he sort of panicked and went for it.
Let's send it to Alex Brundle for some analysis.
Yeah, guys, a couple of big scalps out there. Antonelli, certainly one of them, and then, of course, the spin for Lewis Hamilton at the end. It was a really difficult session for Kimi Antonelli, with obviously the spin, which laid gravel all over the middle sector of the lap when he heads into the mid-corner of Stavelot, and he just gets a little bit greedy on the throttle, doesn't he, and spins the car through the exit. Eventually, though, he did have the opportunity to go again, Kimi Antonelli, but I think there was potentially a little bit of floor damage to that Mercedes, but also a lot of damage to the tyres, which he continues to try and push on, rather than coming in and go for another set. I don't think he felt he had time to get in and go for another set. So he's got great big flat spot look, specifically on that left front, which I think is what he's talking about in terms of not having the grip then to progress through the session. And that tyre just then won't perform for him through the whole lap. Flat out through a rouge then for Kimi Antonelli. He doesn't lose too much in this early sector of the lap. I think they think he can make his way through this Q1 session, even with the little issues that he's carrying. But alas, the grip not there with him. Has to be tentative with the front axle through the mid-corner of Les Combes. Look how much he's having to fight with the car in the suboptimal condition. You can see the right front tyre with a little bit of a flat spot on it as well. really a bit of a shimmy through the mid-corner of Brussels, then out through Jackie Ickx curve. And this is really where all of the time is lost on the eventual lap that Kimi Antonelli intends to do. A couple of other interesting points that jump out from the middle of that session. Alpine, a long way down in a straight line, as we surmise. I watched Pierre Gasly, and he's 5, 6, 7, 8 Ks down every lap in the speed trap up towards Les Combes as we watch Kimi Antonelli struggle to try to get the rest of this lap in. So that potentially an issue for Alpine throughout the weekend if they can't find that little bit of extra power to deal with that. But really, no grip for Kimi Antonelli after making that error. And didn't we talk about it, guys? How short these sessions are versus having to run the medium tyre, get the energy into it, get round and deliver the lap. It really was not a session which would sustain an error like that, and we've just watched it play out.
Thank you, Alex. The start of SQ2 will be delayed as they sweep the track for all that gravel. Let's hear from the man whose lap we were watching a few moments ago, Kimi Antonelli.
Well, disappointment, Kimi. Wind, the issue there.
I don't know. I was actually a pretty decent lap. I was for around P4, and yeah, just was weird because I lost it completely on exit, and yeah, just need to check maybe a gust of wind, but was quite weird the way I lost the car.
Yeah. In terms of how the general feel has been and how you look ahead to tomorrow, relative optimism?
Yeah, I mean, the car felt good over that lap, so definitely confident for tomorrow. And yeah, we'll just try to reset and look for tomorrow.
Yeah, and just finally, Sunday wet, so some interesting decisions to make after the sprint itself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's going to be important tomorrow to do a good quali. And then, you know, Sunday might be wet, so a lot of opportunities, but we'll focus on tomorrow.
Do we do some Italian? Some words in Italian.
Purtroppo è finita subito la mia qualifica e ho perso la macchina in modo un po' strano.
And they are dancing in the grandstand for Max Verstappen. Always a good atmosphere no matter where the Verstappen fans are. And that was Kimi Antonelli level-headed after he's had a real roller coaster this year, hasn't he? On pole in Miami for sprint qualifying, at the back after that spin.
Yeah, actually looking through his results so far, he's tailing off a little bit at the moment. It was only a few races ago he was on the podium in Canada, but even then the qualifying gap is getting bigger between him and George. I think this weekend, as he's sort of said there, he's actually looked a lot quicker, but that mistake is obviously what's put him on the back foot. The surprising thing is he had time to come in and sort that out there.
Strange call from the team?
I think
because they've got his onboard and they can see he's got 2 flat spots.
It was the first lap, so others came through the pits. I don't know, maybe they thought there was no benefit in that, in checking the car over and having a look. It is obviously a short session, but they've gone with it, and it did look like the flat spots, they were pretty nasty, and of course some damage to the underside of the car. So I mean, he's miles off getting through. He's 2 seconds off the next car ahead, so maybe just kind of writing it off. Don't want to burn through tyres and focus on the Grand Prix where the big points are at.
Liam Lawson makes it through. It's Piastri, Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Russell, Hadjar, Stroll, Leclerc, Sainz, Bortoleto, Ocon, Lawson, Tsunoda, Behrman and Pierre Gasly. The estimated time has been given as 3 minutes away. So if you're watching this on catch-up, you can skip ahead. No one's allowed into the fast lane to queue up until you get a confirmation of the time from race control. So estimated time, we'll get a confirmation when we're going again. Having a party out there around this circuit, and why not? It's one of the very best to watch Formula One at anywhere on Earth, and down at Stavelot they are seeing plenty of action. We've now had 3 corners over the course of this weekend where gravel has been pulled back onto the circuit. We've seen it at Stavelot, seen it on the exit of the Fagnes chicane, and now also in FP1 we saw it at Malmedy corner, which is officially turned 7 of the racetrack. Not long to wait, stay with us, and we will bring you plenty of frenetic action. It's going to be mighty close to get through into that top 10.
So the Hamilton one was weird, wasn't it? having that big rear lock under big stress of braking, in about 130 bar peak brake for the bus stop chicane. It's a massive stamp on the brakes, but you don't often see for these big straight line brakings a rear lock as sudden as that. Normally you'd be probably a little bit more front limited. If anything, you generally wind the bias towards the front for the big stops, and yeah, Lewis clearly caught out. Now Ferrari have bought the rear suspension upgrade, trying to lower the car, trying to get it to work, and we saw already a snap for Hamilton earlier on in the session at Antonelli corner there, Stavolo. So he's obviously not happy with the rear generally, and it just seemed like it was a bit on a knife edge early on there. And then the braking was very strange for him, so it'd be interesting to hear what he makes of that. But obviously it's a test session for him now as well, which might not be a bad thing for Ferrari in a way. They've bought this upgrade. It's a sprint weekend. It's difficult to make massive gains because you want to pour through the data. You want to have 3 hours of practice really to optimize your new significant upgraded parts, and they obviously can do that now with the test tomorrow.
Let's hear from the big shock, Lewis Hamilton.
Well, Lewis, sorry to see you here at this stage. It seemed a strange one at the chicane. What happened?
That's fine.
Say again, sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah. Was it a rear lock or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
First time, I think, in my career.
Disappointed. But overall, I mean, how do you assess how the car has been today?
Not great. Yeah, there's not really a lot to say. So.
Any more drivable with this suspension upgrade? Any sense of that? And what about tomorrow, though?
Tomorrow's a new day, so we'll try to. Obviously, I'm massively frustrated. So a lot of work's gone in, and to be there is not really great. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow will be better.
Better luck tomorrow.
They can be tricky, these interviews, can't they? Especially when a driver has had a session that's not gone to plan. Lewis Hamilton having a high-speed spin. Kimi Antonelli, as per the rules for sprint qualifying, finding himself stuck with that set. One set of mediums for SQ1 and SQ2. It forced him into the rather unusual sight of having to continue on for a push lap with flat spots. The team occasionally can appear on safety grounds, but for sprint qualifying, it's usually one that you're stuck with. They've got a new set as per the rule book and heading out there. And so we have lost Alex Albon, Nico Hülkenberg, Lewis Hamilton, Franco Colapinto, and the aforementioned Kimi Antonelli.
That was very much Hamilton taking it on the chin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, not the cleanest of sessions, and went away so heavy on you. You think, actually, maybe he's just thinking he's not optimised it himself, really. Obviously, there are a lot of new parts, some changes this weekend for Ferrari, but that was Hamilton making 2 errors then in 12 minutes across 2 flying laps, and that's why a Ferrari is down in 18th position and not joining SQ2, which we are now.
So, full reference, we were talking about the compromise on setup between a high speed and downforce, and Max Verstappen reverting from his practice plan. Fernando Alonso has gone with that practice plan. So Fernando Alonso is going to be rapid in sectors 1 and sectors 3. Piastri, Norris and Verstappen now all doing the same thing and running the right wing setting for a compromise across the entire lap rather than going all in on high speed or going all in on sector 2, which is always the compromise around here. And it means that the most efficient car in the order is the one that is rewarded. No surprise, therefore, that we have seen the McLarens then at the very front so far. Norris trying to whittle away that gap to Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris with a personal best in any race here of P5. So Norris trying to improve with his first ever Grand Prix podium on Sunday. But this is the session to set the grid for our 15-lap sprint race, our 3rd one of the year. And they swept Stavolo, but there's still a little bit on the exit of the Fagnes chicane.
Yeah, the cars will clean that up as they drive over it a few times, but there's still plenty there. Just one corner before that area that is now nicely swept in between the sessions. So the McLarens are out on their own at the moment. Again, the session's ticking by so quick, 7 minutes left. And McLaren obviously have the pace to get through. They're on the mediums once again as mandated for this part, and then they'll be going to the softs. But they just want to get a banker in now on this medium. They won't have to run it again in a quali spec after this one. So the learnings will be limited from a medium to a soft. There'll be a balance shift that they'll have in their minds already when you put on the theoretically grippier tyre. So it's just about getting that banker on the board if you're the top team, and making sure your drivers are not in a Hamilton or Antonelli position and under pressure later on.
When there are just 8 points between the drivers contending for the World Championship, every point matters, and your progression through clean, efficient laps to book your place in the top 10 shootout are the order now for Lando Norris. Norris, 25 years of age with 140 starts in Formula One, looking to try and do what he did in Miami when the weather played a part there and he was able to make his way through. Oscar Piastri forced to bemoan his luck the last time that we had a sprint race weekend. And Oscar Piastri has the fastest first sector of anyone so far.
It's one corner. It's one corner. It's just La Source, the right-hander. Eau Rouge it is as well, but it's flat out. So it's one corner the drivers really have to work. And there you see the distance between the two McLarens. 11 seconds between them. And as Norris drops out a shot, in comes Piastri for the most exhilarating corner on the circuit. The double left-hander, Pouon, and then you're into the really quick changes of direction and the corners that have been catching everyone out so far.
Stavelot so far has been the talking point of the session. We're flat out all the way to the heavy braking zone of the chicane. This is nose cam for Lando Norris. It'll be the first McLaren to put a time on the board. McLaren's running early, but Piastri, who is just off the back of Lewis Hamilton with what became the battle for the lead last year, going very, very well here. Remember, he had a breakout sprint qualifying session here a couple of years ago. Won the sprint in Qatar as part of him taking his first ever Formula One race win. And he comes over the line, and the margin between the two McLarens is again notable. 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, it's every lap at the moment that we're seeing Piastri up on Norris, and that's about as big a margin as we've seen so far on a qualifying lap. 0.4 across all three sectors there. Actually, the middle sector for Lando was closer than he's been so far, just 1/10 away, but lost a good chunk, the 2/10 in the first corner. Piastri really straight lining the top of the hill there as well at Eau Rouge. You sort of bounce over the curb, you minimise your scrub at the bottom part when you've got a big amount of G-force on. You scrub as you're through the right-hand part of it, and then you flash over the top of the left.
It's interesting that we're highlighting that and seeing that replay, because Oscar Piastri's time has now been deleted. So Oscar Piastri going super aggressive at that part of the circuit, but he has now been deleted for the exact part of the racetrack we showed you the slow motion replay. That is Raidillon Corner, officially turn 4 on this racetrack, and Piastri therefore does not have a lap that counts.
So he was quick there through the first sector. Let's have a look and see. Oh, I mean, that was slowed down, and I'd say even slower, because it's not absolutely clear cut on that camera that he was definitely all four wheels over the white line. But I trust in the process, and it must have been with a microscope the stewards have seen that.
They've deleted it. We have seen times reinstated in the past. Here's the reigning world champion, Max Verstappen, who usually, when it comes to qualifying at Spa, has been dominant in recent times. In Grand Prix pole, he's been half a second up the road, only to take engine penalties, and he is rapid in the first part. 0.4 up on Norris's time.
Well, he's got a nice chunky slipstream from the Racing Bulls car just ahead of him. That's now out of the way, and he can have the downforce through the middle part of the lap as well. So this one's worked out nicely for Max. Charles Leclerc on a lap in the Ferrari just behind him. You can see on the left-hand side, also sweeping through traffic in the mid-sector.
Max Verstappen now attacking into one of Jolin's favourite parts of the circuit. High-speed change of direction, such a feature of this racetrack, part of the original calendar in 1950. It's our longest lap of the year, and there is traffic having to make way, but Verstappen is comfortably up. Not only out on Norris, this would be challenging the time that Piastri put on the board. He has been mighty when it comes to one-lap pace. We're making our way through, and it is only sprint qualifying that he topped here last year.
Leclerc's up on Norris as well on this lap. So Leclerc looking good, Verstappen looking great, coming through the final corners and getting the traction as well.
So Verstappen goes fastest, and that is notable. 0.6 of a second, very nearly 1,000th shy They're 0.6 of a second ahead of Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc in the sole remaining Ferrari across the line. He's 0.2 of a second away from Verstappen. So Norris's effort puts him now in third. Piastri doesn't have a representative lap after he was pinged for track limits at that part of the circuit where they're trying to minimise the corner.
He's going again now, Piastri. Second lap on the mediums, and he's still a little bit slower than Leclerc and a good couple of tenths down on Verstappen, as is George Russell. In fact, Russell even another tenth slower than that through the first sector in the Mercedes. But let's see how this car can light up its way through the corners at the middle sector. Then you've got this low-speed downhill right-hander. Very easy to lock the right front on your way down through Rivage. Pull it back to the right-hand side and flick it through the left-hander at Speaker's Corner and down towards Pouhon.
Let's look at this from George Russell on board.
That's confidence.
The man who used an audacious strategy to go to what he thought was the win last year, only to be disqualified for being underweight. Piastri has gone again. He's in third now, ahead of Norris. Not much separating the two McLarens, but crucially they are behind the Red Bull and the Ferrari. What about the Mercedes?
It's falling away. It's falling away in the middle sector as well, Russell. And the first sector wasn't great, which tends to mean the final sector shouldn't be great as well, as you're picking up high top speeds. That is flat out with a little bit of scrub through Blanchimont. Doesn't quite hit 200 miles per hour as he slams on the anchors and gets through the final couple of corners, and Russell will come out across the line.
So George Russell cuts the beam and goes into fifth position. That time continuing to ebb away. He's 0.7 of a second off the back of Max Verstappen, who has been the master of this place when it has come to all-out speed. Made qualifying look irrelevant for a couple of years in 2022 and 2023. Really encouraging lap for Isaac Hadjar to go ahead of the McLarens. Lawson in fifth position. And that is a team that traditionally have not gone brilliantly around here. So that's encouraging stuff. Alonso has taken all the downforce off the car, and he currently is in 8th position.
Everyone looking to improve, and look at Sainz up to 3rd. So Russell's down to 8th and slipping. Everyone behind is still trying to push. Here's Ocon, who's the fastest man in the first sector.
He's done the same thing. He's taken all the wing out. It's good enough for 3rd. He's had great qualifying days around here in the past. Behrman in 4th position.
Russell is 10th. Russell is on the bubble and he's gone.
Tsunoda gets P10. Russell tumbles down to 12th place because Bortoleto has gone 4th. Upset after upset after upset.
Norris is 10th. Gasly is pushing.
Norris is going again. Fastest middle sector of anyone so far, but he'll need a clean lap if Gasly improves, and he does so. He gets to P5. Norris needs a response.
Piastri's 9th, but he's going to be safe. So it's Norris or Lawson in SQ2.
Here we go. Are we going to find? It looks clean. There's a correction on the outside of the corner. Norris improves to the fastest time. Piastri will finish in 10th place. And look at the names that we have in the bottom 5 and the top 10. Haas, after making contact with each other in Silverstone, 4th and 7th. Bortoleto in P5. Lawson, Tsunoda, Russell, Alonso and Stroll out in the second part of sprint qualifying. And the man who crossed the line first here last year, only 13th. This is what happens when you give them 1 hour to set the cars up.
It was like the track just suddenly came alive, didn't it, as well? The way that everyone pumped in the times, and even Norris and Piastri were struggling, having gone out at the start of that session. And then Lando's still circulating, managed to go quicker than the Red Bull and the Ferrari right at the top. And even if you look at Ocon and Bortoleto's pace, they are there with the great lap that Verstappen put in before. So the track just came alive at the end.
Piastri made it through by 0.04 of a second. There are 8 points for winning the sprint. The gap in the championship is 8 points between Norris and Piastri. And everything is going to make a difference there. He has made it through, along with Hadjar, Sainz, Behrman, Gasly, who absolutely every single time you offer him an SQ3 or a Q3 this year, he comes alive and provides. They have got a deficit with that engine, and yet he's finding a way. Bortoleto, outstanding, and Ocon knows how to put a Formula One car in the top 4 here. He's done it in the past with Force India. That is a long time ago. The driver who made his debut at this circuit 9 years a go. Norris and Verstappen, the top two. Charles Leclerc in third. And it's Lawson, Tsunoda, Russell, Alonso and Stroll. All drivers that at various points around Spa in recent history have either had good performances or looked good earlier in practice. They will be unhappy to find themselves in the bottom 5.
Mercedes out with both cars. Antonelli last, Russell 13th. And it's not boiling. It's not boiling. Normally, the cooler it is, the better they go. Now the sun is out, but it's 22 degrees air temperature. Track temperature 36. This is on the lower end of the scale on a circuit where they kind of won with either driver last year in the Grand Prix. Russell and then the DQ gave it to Hamilton, but they have got to be scratching their heads as to where the performance went there in SQ2. Obviously, we know Antonelli had the spin and then the issues with his flat-spotted tyres and potential floor damage, but Russell went out and just didn't find the lap on one flying lap on a medium.
The start of SQ3 and the 8-minute flurry of action will be delayed.
That was a lap.
I bet it was Gabriel Bortoleto. P5 for a competitive Formula One session in a car that couldn't follow another car earlier in the season, ever since they put a different floor on that car in Spain. The drivers have had something to work with, and he had a superb day, best day of his fledgling career so far in Austria. And Hulkenberg had the best day of his career, slightly longer, in Silverstone. And now a really encouraging lap from the Brazilian drive. First Brazilian to score points in Formula One since Felipe Massa. Let's check in with Alex Brundle and look at one of the customers who's gone out in the bottom 5.
Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda finds himself out again in Sprint Q2. Really interesting in that session. In SQ1, we saw sort of the profile that we saw through free practice between Red Bull and McLaren, with the Red Bull being faster in a straight line, but then not necessarily gaining through the middle sector, fall away. It looks to have come back, not least in the shape of Yuki Tsunoda, who's actually slightly better than the leading time through this first sector of the lap, then loses almost a second all the way through the middle sector. And really ever since he had that big incident, remember, in the Villeneuve chicane in Imola, we've seen a little bit of confidence fall away from Yuki Tsunoda, making his way flat out through Eau Rouge, of course. This is the sector of the lap where he's decent. But then from here onwards, he's going to lose a monumental amount to the leading time, and also just put himself out in this SQ2 session. Looking decent so far, a little bit wide of the mid-corner in Malmedy, and then slightly tentative on the brakes down towards the Brussels hairpin. Has to wait for it, slightly too progressive on the throttle through the mid-corner. But as always, when we watch these laps for Tsunoda, it doesn't look terrible. There aren't big issues, big balance moments. He just looks to be a tiny bit behind the car in comparison to how much Verstappen can extract, especially at these very, very high commitment, high speed circuits. Neat and tidy for Tsunoda, connecting all of the apexes, maybe slightly late on the throttle through the exit of Stavlo, but it's very much a credible lap. He just can't quite find the brute speed that we see from Max Verstappen behind the wheel of that Red Bull machine. In any case, he'll find himself out and not progressing through to the final part of qualifying. It's going to be really interesting to see what Max Verstappen can achieve in this final phase against the McLarens on the soft compound tyre, of course. Looks, as we saw at the end of that session, to be all about where you end up on track. And with the circuit really ramping up, last across the line is definitely going to be worth something in what is an incredibly short session, guys.
Absolutely right, Alex. Thank you for the analysis. Gabriel Bortoleto is part of the top 10. It's Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, the man you're looking at. And then it's Gasly, Behrman, Sainz, Hadjar and Piastri, who made it through by 0.04 of a second after his original lap time. And it looked tight, but they must have been certain. Either way, he had to go again. He did go again, and he made it through. Oliver Behrman, again, they were confident, the Haas drivers, weren't they, that the update to the car that they'd brought for Silverstone was going to help. Obviously a non-score for them, which has seen them fall behind Sauber in the Constructors' Championship very, very
Good luck. Number 2.
And we are through. Well done.
Wow. Let's go.
All right, catch your breath now.
Catch your breath now. It's that type of racetrack.
Well, there's good points to be found on a sprint now for Sauber with Bortoleto, Alpine with Gasly. Sainz has done well. Remember, he only did half the practice as well earlier on with his issue, so he's managed to dig his way into SQ3. Hadjar's there for Racing Bulls, and Haas are there with both cars. Who's not there? Aston Martin. This is a free-for-all for everyone else to try and get their claws on some points.
Let's have a look at a comparison of the data then with our friends at AWS. And how's this for a comparison? Lando Norris and Gabriel Bortoleto are side by side for you. And Bortoleto, I think it's fairly safe to say, according to the green graphic there, is rapid in a straight line and making it work.
Yeah, he is. He's a little bit up on the end of the straight speed. He's quite a long way down through Pouhon. That's the middle of the lap, where there's actually a full tenth towards Norris there, as the McLaren's clearly working well and generally is up through all the apexes. But then again, the Sauber at the end of the lap, so it's obviously running a little bit more trimmed out, which is good news really for Bortoleto as well, because it'll mean that he's got a better chance to overtake, a better chance to defend position. And yeah, Norris having to do the work and keep it. That must be almost flat out for Lando through Pouhon, that speed. We saw Russell having a kind of pretty good attack on a Mercedes on mediums that ended up 13th. So I imagine Norris a full second quicker in a McLaren is almost pinned, and now they're going to be going on to a soft tyre.
So encouraging stuff for Gabriel Bortoleto, who we're looking at now in your picture, and he's ready to attack along with 9 other drivers to set the grid for this 15-lap race, our third sprint of the year. It is the first session of any qualifying format this year, whether it be sprint or Grand Prix, that Haas have got both cars to SQ3 or Q3. So encouraging times for them. They were certain the update was going to help them. We then got a very, very wet British Grand Prix, and they managed to collide with each other. But a much happier time 2 weeks on.
They were very low-key in practice as well earlier on. Both of them towards the bottom, as they just focused on themselves in the hours practice and obviously held quite a lot back. And now we're seeing drivers having confidence on this fast-flowing circuit, and it's paying off. At the start of the year, Haas were really baffled as to where their pace was in the high speed, but you don't get more high speed than this and Silverstone in terms of the cornering speeds, and Behrman was rapid last week, had this red flag penalty which put him to the back of the grid, but yeah, here, more confidence, corners, changes of direction, you need the aero platform, and they're both up there in the top 7.
Okay, we're awaiting the start of SQ3, slightly delayed after all of the gravel that's been brought onto the circuit with cars just dipping a couple of wheels, nothing as dramatic as SQ1. It's a great atmosphere on the Kemmel Straight. No need for the jackets. The air temperature 22 degrees, which for Spa is basically 40, let's be honest.
Yeah, still feels roasting. So, in a normal world, there are 4 contenders here. 2 McLarens, 1 Max Verstappen and 1 Charles Leclerc. We've lost Lewis Hamilton in SQ1. We've lost Kimi Antonelli as well in SQ1. George Russell's now fallen by the wayside in SQ2. So it should be those 4 in McLarens, a Red Bull and a Ferrari trying to lock out the top 2 rows, and all of them will then have a shot on that long run up towards Les Combes on the first lap tomorrow. But it's where now, if you can elevate yourself to the front row, you can make a big difference. And I feel like if you're a McLaren, you don't necessarily have a big pace advantage here. Norris or Piastri have a chance still to get a couple of cars in between their rival.
One driver not taking part, Fernando Alonso. Let's quickly hear from him.
Fernando, you look so good in that first part of quali. Just talk me through what happened with the pace in that second part.
That the people put second set of tires and they get up to speed. You know, for us, Q1 normally is the best session. We are very close to the limit in every lap we do, close to 100%, and I think the people just build the speed, you know, slowly, step by step throughout qualifying. But so if we keep on going, I think we will just keep going backwards, because our best session is always Q1.
A few new bits on the car. I know it's always hard from a driver's perspective to know, but how did the car feel just generally through practice and quali?
Yeah, it felt good. I mean, in free practice 1, we were able to test the new parts, the new front wing, and it seems that it's a step forward. The car had more downforce with that wing, so we were happy with that. And yeah, it's the configuration we are running now. Let's see if we can keep learning a little bit more tomorrow in the sprint race and decide for the rest of the weekend.
Fernando Alonso in conversation with Lawrence Barretto. We have a green light at the end of the pit lane. SQ3 is underway. No cars currently on track.
Yeah, everyone just waiting now for one flying lap on a soft. So that's what we're going to see. And no one wants to go before the end of the session now, because we've just seen some enormous track evolution. You don't want to be the one cleaning up any bits of gravel or mess. Crowd in good spirits. That's a great vantage point as well, isn't it now?
What an unbelievable place to watch Formula One, that newish grandstand of recent times. Can report that the new power unit in Carlos Sainz's car, after the trouble that he had earlier on, which saw him miss the first half of the session.
So I quite like Fernando's interview, where he's to me, he's sort of saying, well, my driving skill gets us really quick very quickly, but when everyone else works it out, they catch us up and we fall backwards. And you know what, when you actually look at Alonso generally through qualifying, it plays out as well. Q1, he's always very quick. He has a talent of getting down to pace, probably quicker than many others. And then often they will just slightly fall back. That's basically what he's kind of saying, of course, between him and the team. But Fernando driving it, he drives the wheels off it straight away, and then everyone else thinks about it, learns, and can put together the lap that he's already done.
He's provided so much gold through the years, not only on the racetrack, but with his interviews as well. Pierre Gasly's family are in attendance and watching on. Pierre Gasly organised a wonderful tribute to his late friend Antoine Hubert with a stop at the site. Flowers were laid, and Gasly making sure, quite correctly, that no one on the Grand Prix weekend will ever forget Antoine Hubert, who lost his life in 2019. Laura Mekies getting the new era started at Red Bull Racing. I think he'll be happy just to be getting to a competitive session. He was getting peppered in the press conference. His endless answers, talking more than we have.
Well, there were a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions when you're suddenly unexpectedly thrust into one of the biggest and toughest jobs in Formula One, and that's when Laurent Mekies now finds himself having replaced Christian after 20 years at Red Bull. You wouldn't know if you just tuned in and watched the track action. Red Bull seem as they were, and that's kind of understandable. You know, team principle changes, but the race team remains the same week on week. Verstappen was pole at Silverstone. Tsunoda still sort of finding his struggles as well. That's not changed just yet. It will be in the longer run that Mekies can start to put his stamp on the team, and we'll see the differences. So he's really just learning about what's going on, what makes Max quick, what makes Yuki struggle, how the race team are going to operate and galvanise to try and win a race against the mighty McLarens at the moment.
You're looking at the mighty McLarens. If you're wondering what's going on, we're in one-shot qualifying. That's what's happening. We're going to have soft tyres on the car, and you get one chance to place your car on the grid for tomorrow's race.
This is where I want the rules to change for next year, please. Can we have them go one at a time?
Because I was thinking we'd get to see everyone's lap. It would be so enjoyable. It was nice to see the crowd, but it would be even nicer for the crowd to see the cars one by one.
Yeah, we've got 4 minutes of nothing, and then we'll have, you know, a minute 40 of them all going round, and you can't have 10 sets of eyes watching it. So we're going to miss so many of the laps right at the end of it when we've just been sitting waiting. I quite enjoyed one-shot quali as well back in the day. I never did it. I watched it, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, DC, who normally joins us, absolutely did not. Absolutely ruined his performance in qualifying. It's a strange thing, but yeah, it would be lovely to see the cars out on track. Then, of course, you get into the argument about who goes first and who goes last.
Well, you've got a meritocracy as well. We've got an order from SQ2. It makes SQ2 a lot more meaningful. You do it in reverse order from that, and there's still so much to play for. You've got one flying lap, which is all they've got now, but we get to see it all. There will be a tiny advantage for the driver that's just gone quickest in SQ2, but they've had to earn that advantage. I like it.
We'll go and suggest that later on. 3 minutes, though. One of the world's great racetracks. superb drivers at different stages of their career. Norris and Piastri fighting for their maiden title. Max Verstappen knows how to win around this place and knows how to scythe through the field as well. Doesn't want to have to do any of that. Wants to lead away from pole position, which he has been used to all the time, or at least being quickest in Q3. Such as his prowess around here, he's always taken engine penalties around this circuit. And we have 2 minutes to go then. It is going to be who comes over the line with a clean lap. Any mistake here, any spin, you're 10th. And the big pressure, therefore, falls to Norris and Piastri. But they've been handling that all year. The question is, does it go, as we've seen so far, towards Piastri? He's got to push now, having had his first effort before in SQ2 deleted, putting him on the back foot.
There's no get out of jail runs now. This is it. And they've all switched to the soft tyre as well. So the slight balance shift that'll give them, a little bit more grip that'll give them as well. How much can you squeeze the juice out of this one? Because, as you say, you overdo it, you find yourself wheel spinning at the start of the lap. That only ever gets worse by the end of the lap. Here we go. On board with Lando Norris, having a crack around this 7-kilometre circuit.
He is 8 points back in the championship. 8 points available for the winner. Anything you can gain on your rival is important. Oscar Piastri will tell you that. He's 8 points in the lead of this championship. 5 of them have come from the sprint format. It is so important for the destiny of the largest trophy by the end of the year. This is the beginning of the second half of the season with Lando Norris coming through the first sector. He'll cut the beam in a few moments. When he does so, we'll get a read. It's a 30.1.
It's not that great. There's 3/10 away from Ocon in the low downforce Haas in SQ2. So Norris has got plenty to do in the middle sector here.
Let's get a comparison with Max Verstappen. Left-hand side of your screen. 1 minute to go. The only run that we've got in SQ3, and we've got Verstappen up on Lando Norris through the first third of the racetrack.
Well, let's get a gauge from Oscar Piastri as well, who's been mighty in the middle part of the lap, and through he goes in the first part, and he's quicker than Norris as well by over a 10th.
But he's not as quick as Max Verstappen, who was the fastest here last year, and he has made a habit of that. So Norris first on the road, he'll lay down the time. Verstappen will respond, so will Piastri. One chance around here. And watch out for Ocon as well in the Haas. They are barely running anything on that rear wing if you look at the speed he's got in the first and third sectors.
It's a very good middle sector, nice and clean, using the grip there for Lando. Now he's got to pick this braking zone at the final corner.
And Verstappen can't respond to it. He's a 10th back there. Now, it is going to be tight then between our top 3 contenders. Ocon rapid in the first part of the lap. The time to beat from Lando Norris is a 1:41.128. Verstappen has to pick his braking point for the chicane, and Piastri's middle sector is astonishingly fast. Verstappen, can he get ahead of Norris? He does! Verstappen moves ahead with a 40.9. Now over to Oscar Piastri to try and take it away from both of them. It was Norris, then it was Verstappen, now it's Piastri by 0.4 of a second. Brilliant lap when it counted.
That is a goal. 0.6 Piastri to Norris. Leclerc comes through 3/4 of a second away and has a good look at the big screen to see where he's wound up. Can any of the midfielders get into this as well?
Well, Esteban Ocon will be enjoying this part of the racetrack. Didn't enjoy the middle part. He was having to survive through those corners. But now we see the low downforce Haas come across the line. Sainz is in 5th, Leclerc is in 4th. And Ocon gets ahead of the Williams. What can Oliver Behrman do? He goes in to 7th, and now it's down to Bortoleto, Gasly and Hadjar. Can they come up with anything to rival Ocon's time?
I don't think anyone's going to trouble the top 4, but these are important places further back. Gasly thought he did a great lap. Bortoleto thought he did a great lap at SQ2. Can they improve on it? Here comes Gasly.
Gasly using all of the curb and a bit more. He is only 8th fastest. What about the Sauber team? Resurgent in recent times. Bortoleto is in 9th, and it's Hadjar to complete the set. This is just to set the order. Across the line he goes to 9th. Oscar Piastri has left them all behind. A 1:40.510. 0.4 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen, who's ahead of Norris, his closest rival for the title. Might only be sprint pole, but it's a statement lap for Oscar Piastri.
It's absolutely huge, and it's not unexpected with the way that he's been going so far in today's running. He's got form around this circuit. A lot of calmness on his side of the garage as they take that in, but that is a special lap there from Oscar, and he has blitzed the field.
So Piastri a long way up the road. Verstappen will be delighted to split the McLarens. You've got Leclerc in fourth.
P1 confirmed. So I didn't like to tell you until it was all confirmed, but that's P1, and margin is nearly half a second. Very impressive.
Let's go, baby. Sorry for the heart attack. That wasn't in the plan, but yeah, car was mega. Nicely done. Very nicely done.
0.04 of a second away from not being in this session. He tops it by 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, it was always the track limits, not the lack of pace, that caused him to be under pressure in SQ2. But, I mean, the fact that he snuck through and then, with one lap on a soft, delivered that hammer blow to the rest of the field is very impressive. His middle sector is just dialed in. It's dialed in all the time, and when he's doing a 10.5 to Lando in the first sector, that's when the gap becomes 6 for the lap, because he is just nailing it through the medium speed and the fast stuff as well. Pouhon, Fagnes chicane, this is full commitment stuff, and Oscar's the man.
Out of the car as the fastest in sprint qualifying. Satisfaction to be fastest around this circuit for any driver. Max Verstappen waves to the crowd who've been cheering for him throughout. A word for Esteban Ocon, who's got good form around this circuit in the past. He's placed it in the top 4 in Formula 1 qualifying previously. He finds himself 5th on the grid for a competitive session for the team that are 9th in the Constructors' Championship. So satisfying for him to put that together. There's the driver who's in 4th place, 7/10 back, and that is Charles Leclerc, as Carlos Sainz inspects the state of the soft tyres on his old team's car. And they left it for one shot at the end there. And Norris laid down the gauntlet, beaten by Verstappen, beaten by Piastri. Piastri is 0.6 of a second up against his teammate, which is remarkable if you consider just a year ago, Oscar Piastri was the lead McLaren on the Grand Prix grid on only 4 occasions, and he is just in a competitive qualifying session put 0.6 of a second on his teammate. Our first qualifying session of the weekend, the major points handed out for the Grand Prix, but there are still World Championship points on offer tomorrow. Haas will be so pleased, given their position in the Constructors' Championship, having seen others overtake them recently, that they've put their cars 5th and 7th positions. Gasly again making a top 10, even though Alpine are 10th in the Constructors' Championship. Bortoleto finding himself in the final part of qualifying. Sprint and Grand Prix for only the 2nd time in his Formula 1 career. Naomi Schiff has made her way to Parc Fermé, and she is speaking to the fastest driver.
Oscar, massive congratulations. This is your first sprint pole of the season. You seem to love it around here. I mean, what an amazing gap to the competition.
Yeah, that was it was a good lap. A little scare in SQ2 with the lap deletion, but no, the car's been mega all day, and I feel like I've been able to put in a lot of good laps. So yeah, thanks to the team. The car's been great, and this is a track I love. You know, it's my favorite one of the year, and I don't know, maybe they gave me a couple of extra tenths, but no, it's always good fun around here, and when the car's handling as well as it is today, it's a pleasure.
This morning in FP1, you seemed really confident, and other than a little moment in SQ2 where your lap time was deleted, it seemed to be just a dominant performance from you all day. Why are you feeling this confidence around here?
I don't know. I mean, the car has been in a good window from lap 1, and again, it's a track I always enjoy coming to, and yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, I think, you know, I've had good confidence. I feel like the last few weekends have been good from a pace perspective, but not so much from a results perspective. So yeah, it's nice to get a result today.
Tomorrow morning, bright and early, we've got a sprint race. It's the longest track on the calendar, so that means not very many race laps. Is that going to work in your favor? I know you've got slightly different downforce levels to the cars around you. How do you think it'll fare?
I need to go and look. The Red Bulls were very quick in a straight line.